You know, when people observe the business, you said recently that the demand for Blackwell is insane. You said one of the hardest parts of your job is the emotional toll of saying no to people in a world that has a shortage of the compute that you can produce and have on offer. But critics say this is just a moment in time, right? They say this is just like Cisco in 2000, we're overbuilding fiber, it's gonna be boom and bust. You know, I think about the start of 23 when we were having dinner. The forecast for Nvidia at that dinner in January of 23 was that you would do 26 billion of revenue for the year 2023. You did 60 billion. Right, the 25 people.
Let's just let the truth be known. Yeah. That is the single greatest failure of forecasting the world has ever seen.
Right.
Can we all at least admit that?
What to me,
that was my takeaway. I just got
and that was we got so excited in November 22 because we had folks like Mustafa from Inflection and Noam from Character coming in our office, talking about investing in their companies. And they said, well, if you can't pencil out investing in our companies, then buy Nvidia, because everybody in the world is trying to get Nvidia chips to build these applications that are going to change the world. And of course, the Cambrian moment occurred with ChatGPT. And notwithstanding that fact, these 25 analysts were so focused on the crypto winter that they couldn't get their head around an imagination of what was happening in the world, okay? So it ended up being way bigger. You say in very plain English, the demand is insane for Blackwell, that it's going to be that way for as far as you can see. Of course, the future is unknown and unknowable, but why are the critics so wrong that this isn't going to be the Cisco-like situation of overbuilding in 2000?
Yeah. The best way to think about the future is reason about it from first principles.
Correct.
Okay, so the question is, what are the first principles of what we're doing? Number one, what are we doing? What are we doing? The first thing that we are doing is we are reinventing computing. Do we not? We just said that. The way that computing will be done in the future will be highly machine learned.
Yes.
Highly machine learned. Okay, almost everything that we do, almost every single application, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Photoshop, Premiere, you know, AutoCAD. You give me your favorite application that was all hand engineered. I promise you, it will be highly machine learned in the future. Isn't that right? And so all these tools will be, and on top of that, you're going to have machines, agents that help you use them.
Right.
Okay. And so we know this for a fact at this point, right? Isn't that right? We've reinvented computing. We're not going back. The entire computing technology stack is being reinvented. Okay, so now that we've done that, we said that software is going to be different. What software can write is going to be different. How we use software will be different. So let's now acknowledge that. Those are my ground truth now.
Yes.
Now the question, therefore, is what happens? And so let's go back and let's just take a look at how's computing done in the past. So we have $1 trillion worth of computers in the past. We look at it, just open the door, look at the data center, and you look at it and say, are those the computers you want doing that future? And the answer is no. Right? You got all these CPUs back there. We know that what it can do and what it can't do. And we just know that we have $1 trillion worth of data centers that we have to modernize. And so right now, as we speak, if we were to have a trajectory over the next 4 or 5 years to modernize that old stuff, that's not unreasonable. Right. Sensible. So we have $1 trillion.
And you're having those conversations with the people who have to modernize it.
Yeah. So
and they're modernizing it on GPU.
That's right. I mean, well, let's make another test. You have $50 billion of CapEx you like to spend. Option A, option B. Build CapEx for the future.
Right.
Or build CapEx like the past.
Right.
Now, you already have the CapEx of the past.
Right. Yeah. Right.
It's sitting right there. It's not getting much better anyways. Moore's Law is largely ended. And so why rebuild that? Let's just take $50 billion, put it into generative AI. Isn't that right? And so now your company just got better.
Right.
Now, how much of that 50 billion would you put in? Well, I would put in 100% of the 50 billion because I've already got 4 years of infrastructure behind me. That's of the past. And so now I just reasoned about it from the perspective of somebody thinking about it from first principles. And that's what they're doing. Smart people are doing smart things. Now the second part is this. So now we have $1 trillion worth of capacity to go build, right? $1 trillion worth of infrastructure. What about, call it $150 billion into it.
Right.
Okay, so we have $1 trillion of infrastructure to go build over the next 4 or 5 years. Well, the second thing that we observe is that the way that software is written is different, but how software is going to be used is different. In the future, we're going to have agents, isn't that right?
Correct.
We're going to have digital employees in our company. In your inbox, you have all these little dots and these little faces. In the future, there's going to be little icons of AIs, isn't that right? I'm going to be sending them, I'm no longer going to program computers with C++. I'm going to program AIs with prompting, isn't that right? Now, this is no different than me talking to my, this morning, I wrote a bunch of emails before I came here. I was prompting my teams.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And I would describe the context, I would describe the fundamental constraints that I know of, and I would describe the mission for them. I would leave it sufficiently, I would be sufficiently directional so that they understand what I need, and I want to be clear about what the outcome should be, as clear as I can be, but I leave enough ambiguous space, a creativity space so they can surprise me, isn't that right?
Absolutely.
It's no different than how I prompt an AI today.
Yeah.
It's exactly how I prompt an AI. And so what's going to happen is on top of this infrastructure of IT that we're going to modernize, there's going to be a new infrastructure. This new infrastructure are going to be AI factories that operate these digital humans.
Right.
And they're going to be running all the time, 24/7.
Right.
We're going to have them for all of our companies all over the world. We're going to have them in factories. We're going to have them in autonomous systems. Isn't that right? So there's a whole layer of computing fabric, a whole layer of what I call AI factories that the world has to make that doesn't exist today at all.
Right.
So the question is, how big is that?
Right.
Unknowable at the moment. Probably a few $1 trillion.
Right.
Unknowable at the moment, but as we're sitting here building into, the beautiful thing is the architecture for this modernizing this new data center and the architecture for the AI factory is the same.
Right.
That's the nice thing.
And you made this clear. You've got $1 trillion of old stuff you got to modernize. You at least have $1 trillion of new AI workloads coming on.
Yeah.
Give or take, you'll do $125 billion in revenue this year. There was, at one point, somebody told you the company would never be worth more than $1 billion. As you sit here today, is there any reason, right, if you're only $125 billion out of a multi-trillion TAM, that you're not going to have 2x the revenue, 3x the revenue in the future that you have today? Is there any reason your revenue doesn't?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you know, it's not about everything is, companies are only limited by the size of the fish pond,
Yes.
A goldfish can only be so big. And so the question is, what is our fish pond? What is our pond? And that requires a little imagination. And this is the reason why market makers think about that future, creating that new fish pond. It's hard to figure this out looking backwards and try to take share.
Right.
Share takers can only be so big.
For sure.
Market makers can be quite large.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so, I think the good fortune that our company has is that since the very beginning of our company, we had to invent the market for us to go swim in.
Yeah.
That market, and people don't realize this back then, but anymore. But we were at ground zero of creating the 3D gaming PC market.
Right.
We largely invented this market, and all the ecosystem and all the graphics card ecosystem. We invented all that, and so the need to invent a new market to go serve it later is something that's very comfortable for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.